So in this video I'm going to talk about how our mind works, and this is to give us a little bit more of understanding of why sometimes we feel in control, why sometimes we can get angry for no reason, why sometimes that we feel happy or sad, or why exactly we go through these periods of motivation and lack motivation. How does the brain work? And why does it impact us so much? Why is it such a thing that can bring us so much joy, and how we can use it for so much stimulation, but at the same time that can cause us so much misery and anxiety. When we think about our minds, we don't really tend to look at the bigger picture. What we tend to do is we question ourselves. We question why we feel a certain way. We live very much in that moment. So we're like, right, I'm going to do this. We make a decision to take action. We make a decision we're not going to do things anymore. We know what we enjoy doing. We know what makes us feel good in that moment. We know things that don't. And then we have that other side. We can feel so in control at times, and then there's that other side where we just feel totally out of control. We feel despair, we feel guilt, we feel sadness, we feel regret. We question why we've not been able to do the things that we want to do when it should be so straightforward and easy. We punish ourselves, for self-sabotage, and we just feel that we have, no self-worth, or we feel we have no self-discipline, and we don't understand why we act in the way we do. And this is what can really cause us a problem. When we talk about the mind, it's very much, what we think and what we do are almost the same two things. And in this case, it's very much more about what we don't do. We can cause ourselves a lot of emotional pain through our thoughts, and by living very much in this we live in the past. We think about things that have previously happened that affects us. We fear of things that are happening in the future, and we get very wrapped up in our own thoughts, and our own thoughts can cause us a lot of pain. And funnily enough, if we're in physical pain, we take action very quickly. We will take things like paracetamol. We will go and see the doctor. We will put ice on it. We will rest it. We will do anything to prevent that pain. But when we're in psychological pain, we can spend years in this turmoil without actually doing anything about it, without understanding how we can improve, that mental pain that we're suffering. A lot of the time, because we have these mental highs and lows, we just think they're phases, and they pass in the night. And that, mental turmoil is a lot of the time is the thing that's holding a lot of us back. Our limiting thoughts are ultimately the thing that stops us from achieving our goals. So, but we still don't take action as if we would if we were in physical pain. I think the question of why this is a problem is fairly obvious and fairly easy to answer, and that's because it's the thing that holds us back the most. It can, without solving any kind of mental health issues, it doesn't even have to be mental health issues, as such. Without solving the things that don't make us feel sad, then that really does affect our own self-worth. You can't be, happy and hate yourself at the same time. The two don't go hand in hand. There has to be something going on that makes you sad. You can't be happy all the time and not feel great about yourself. Those two just aren't something that runs. You're either one or the other at different times, and it will blips of happiness where you forget about how you feel about yourself, and if you feel that negatively about yourself, then it takes away that happiness. So the two can't go hand in hand. So the ultimate goal of health and well-being is to improve how you feel on a day-to-day basis, work on how you feel about yourself, but to be honest, the happier and the better you feel, the more you just naturally tend to love yourself anyway. But how do you get there? How do you get from the place where you are now? How does our mind work? How can we shift our perspective? How can we shift how our mind operates, to get to that point where we ultimately just feel happy, healthy, and be that person that we want to be? What are those steps? So I'm not going to talk about our brain in the way that a neuroscientist would talk about our brain or talk about how it works. I'm going to talk about it in a very kind of simplistic model way to make it very easy for everyone to understand and very relatable. So this comes across, if anyone's familiar with personal development books, you may have seen this about the brain and how it operates come up time and time again in kind of different areas. So your brain, the simplest way of breaking it down is your brain essentially has almost like 3 different areas. In there you have your kind of very basic survival instincts. You then have your kind of logical, your side of you, which is like most like you, your truest form, your personality, the rational side. And then you have the kind of other side of it, which is your habits and your power saving efficiency side. So you kind of have these 3 kind of key areas, which make sense if you want. So the times where you feel out of control, the times where you feel highly emotional, a lot of the time that's your survival instincts. If someone's having a go at you, you get angry and you react in a way. When, it's scary, there's a stressful situation, your body responds from emotional eating, because it's that way of fueling to help you get away from a stressful situation. So there's lots of different things that you act in defensive ways, you act in ways that's all about self-preservation. So that is your kind of, the side of you that is based on your survival drive, but it's also your irrational side, because that sort of part of the brain is geared up for you to survive. So then you have your logical, rational side of you, which is your personality, the side of you which is most like you. It's all about your hopes, your dreams, all of that kind of side of things, the things that make you laugh, the things that make you different, the things that make you unique, the things that that's the part of the brain. When you feel in control of your life, that's the part that's in charge. Then you have the other side, the energy side, saving side of your brain. And that's the thing, like I said, about the habits. It helps create these neural pathways to help you, help your personality, logical side, rational part of the brain have to do less work, and also the auto drives as well. Now, although the 3 are interdependent, they all interlink with one another. And basically the way that a lot of it's described in a lot of these kind of books is all information will filter to your self-preservation side. That will go to the irrational side that is geared up for your survival. All information goes there first. And then it's up to your brain, that part of your brain, to decide how much of a threat that is. If it's something you're very comfortable with, you'll think about it in a very logical way. So then the information goes to your human part of the brain. If it doesn't need to and it's just something that's an automatic drive and the energy saving side picks up on that, then you'll just have a trigger go into that part of the brain, the irrational self-preservation side. The energy saving part of the brain will pick that up and you'll just have this automatic response. So you can see how these function, and that's why you get people that can get very angry very quickly or aren't very good at managing their emotions. Because all information goes to that self-preservation part of the brain. So how do we bypass the self-preservation part of the brain, and how do we then go into the logical part of our brain where we have this control, where we're in control of our lives and we're doing the things that we want to do, and we have that personality of our sides, because otherwise you have this conflicting side. You have this self-preservation side of your brain, and then you have this logical rational side, and your human side, the logical rational side, that's you, and that's the one of you that makes decisions when you're calm you know, and at ease, and you're thinking about things, and you as a person. But then you have this conflicting side where you have these two other elements of the brain working against you as an individual. You have the self-preservation that's like, I will do anything at all costs to preserve life. Doesn't think about anything in a rational way. It's like my whole drive is to do things for self-preservation. Then you have the computer side, the energy saving side, and that's the side where you're then battling against, because it's like, this equals this, therefore this is the reaction, and this is to get this point. So you have this thing, and it's like da 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 da, and you need to try and break that circuit to change the habit from it. So it's like, this is the trigger. You go in to that place where you always have tea. So you go to have tea, but it doesn't feel right unless you have a biscuit, and that's the habit. And your end goal is there to have that satisfaction. So you have the trigger, that's the action, that gives you the answer. So you're working against you, the person inside you, you're then battling against these two other sides of it. So the next step really is how do we make a change to that? How do we bypass these two other elements to always be in control of ourselves? How do we stay that healthy, happy, logical, you know, human element of ourselves? You know, the bit that focuses on all the positive, the bit that, you know, is in control of every element of our life. How do we... So ultimately we will explore more about the brain and how to kind of regain that control, and how to, you know, alleviate yourself of these kind of self-saboteurs and, you know, these demons that you have inside of yourself, and very much to kind of transform that so you have more control. It is a work in progress. It doesn't just happen overnight, because you have the energy side, the saving side of your brain, which is constantly trying to, you know, get you back to these old habits. You know, and also things that are installed in you from a very early age. You know, these are deeply ingrained in you, you know, elements that you're battling against at times. So how do we, you know, work with that and, you know, exactly have more control? The first step is self-awareness, you know, because when we just are in our heads the whole time, we're just constantly listening to that running dialogue. Now, without even thinking about your inner dialogue, you've already had thoughts about things that I'm saying. You might be saying, this is a load of nonsense, you know, this makes sense, you know, oh my god, this is so interesting, oh my god, this is so boring. You know, you could be having all these different thoughts in your head, but you haven't paid attention to your thoughts. You're just thinking. There's no self-awareness of these thoughts. And so self-awareness is one of the biggest steps you can possibly make in terms of, you know, building self-discipline, in terms of becoming aware of, you know, these sabotaging thoughts, and becoming aware of your habits. You know, as soon as you take that step back, and so whoever has worked in that kind of business world, like corporate world, you will have heard of emotional intelligence, and this is very, very similar to this is, you know, exactly part of it. It's like, how do I take that step back and become aware of the bigger picture? And it doesn't necessarily have to be aware of the bigger picture in front of you, but aware of the bigger picture in your head. You know, what is it that I'm thinking? You know, and then is that next step as well. Like, there's anyone that's binged eat, that's an absolutely fabulous book, and it's called Never Binge Again. And he talks about this self-preservation overdrive gone wrong, and he calls that element of the brain the pig, because there's always the pig talking. And we will touch on part of his work later on, to do with overeating and diets, and why we find it hard to eliminate certain foods, because again, it helps really you understand why it's so difficult, and it again becomes down to this mental struggle. And so he calls it the pig, and the pig is essentially, the pig will do anything to eat crap food. The pig will do anything to binge. It will say anything to you, it will do anything, it will literally be in your head telling you. But you think it's you, because they're your thoughts. So you think it's you that's talking to you. So you would be just like, oh, I just can't cut that out. Every time you say you can't cut something out, that's not you talking, that's the pig talking. That's that survival instinct gone wrong. You know, that's the thing that's there, that's self-sabotaging. And that's where I said the survival part of your brain will do anything to help you survive. And so it's always thinking that, no, you don't need to cut that out. You know, you really like that. You know, why would you want to cut that out? Ultimately, a lot of the crap food that we eat, we don't really need. We just eat it because we like it, you know. And so there's no reason why we can't cut that out. Like, when you think about it from a logical perspective, there's no reason why. We don't necessarily need it as part of our diet. But in our heads, we think we can't because we really enjoy it. And so when we think we can't, that's not you as a logical human talking, that's your pig. And your pig's going to be saying lots of things to you all the time about food and, you know, why you can't cut things out and why you should be able to eat what you want when you want. And every time you have dissent in your head, that's not you talking. That is that survival element of your brain talking. Whenever you just do things and question why you did it, that's the energy saving part of your brain because you just ran on autopilot. So they're the two biggest obstacles that we find with making positive changes, because you're up against your habits, your energy saving, and then you're up against this survival instinct, the thing that's not you, that's the thing of that element of your brain that's trying to make sure that you eat as much food as you possibly can at all points to ultimately survive. The points that, you know, you've gone to work out before and it hurt. So even though logically in your brain you know it's the right thing to do, to exercise to stay healthy and strong, that other element of your brain's like, no, it hurts, I don't want to work out. And so this is where this internal struggle comes from. But being able to take that step back and recognize when you have these self-sabotaging thoughts is the first step to being able to then control them. And this first step to be able to be more of you as a person rather than giving in to these other elements of your brain that aren't you.